Going to the other races though, right? Indy 500, when you had, I would say, and I talked to Mike about this a lot, right? You guys had what you wanted to have essentially. Like you had the bits, the go fast bits, you had all the stuff that you wanted there. But I would say at other races, right, probably didn't have exactly what you wanted. And it's amazing how,
For sure.
and I don't think the casual fan really understands, like, you're a driver that qualified in the Fast 12, Fast 9. Like you're up at the front of the Indy 500 again and having a great race too until you got absolutely rammed in the back. Like, again, no
Yeah.
fault of your own. But you're the same driver then that has to go through the struggles of the rest of the season, right? Just
Right.
bad luck, not enough speed. But that's I want to try to. I always try to put it in perspective for people that, like, it's not the same per weekend. The equipment is different. The small things here and there are different. And you had to go through that, right? It probably felt like a heroic day to be qualifying in the top
Yeah.
9. And then all of a sudden now you're like, well, shoot, we're on the last row for a bunch of these road and street courses. And it's just, you don't have that same grip. You don't have the same competitiveness.
Right. It's a very interesting topic. I was talking about it with someone the other day. It's, most of my junior Formula career, like some other drivers that have come to IndyCar, my junior Formula career was pretty successful. I had a lot of success, was with top teams. It was rare in most classes I was in to be outside of top 5. I remember in, Indy Next, my second year, even my first rookie year, during the tests, I remember, especially second year, we were literally fastest at every test almost. Constantly battling for podiums and just constantly at the front. So you get used to that mindset. Obviously the cars are all the same, like IndyCar, except dampers are all the same in Indy Next. And I remember it, wherever we would show up with how dominant the team was, we would be fast right away. It was so rare that we would do a dramatic change to the car, whether we go to Sebring for short course testing or we go to Road America. The team knew where to start and it would be competitive right away. So I got so used to being in that environment. So when I went to IndyCar, obviously, like we talked about earlier, AJ Foyt, it's no secret that we're behind in damper development, speed of the car, except for super speedways for whatever reason. But for most road courses, we're just simply behind. And the best way to describe it is, a lot of the time when we would roll off the truck, we would be so far out the window, both Santino and I, in terms of our relative pace, setup of the car. We would usually only be separated by 2 or 3 tenths every session, but we would be P20 or P25. And we would start most weekends, so far out the window, whereas, some teams would be literally 1.5 seconds quicker than us, which is in racing is an eternity, as you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we would, our feedback would be exactly the same. The car is doing these things. And, when both drivers are within 2 tenths every session, it's, both are relatively getting the most out of the car, right? As you know. And we would eventually get to a point in qualifying where the car is somewhat in the window, but that's the starting point everyone else would start with at the beginning of the weekend.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't get to that starting point until qualifying. So when you take teams that start at that point from the weekend and then develop all the way up to qualifying, their performance is so much higher compared to us. So we're just naturally behind when it comes to that. Specifically for road and street courses. Ovals, we happen to be, one of the lucky teams where we can roll off and be quick right away for super speedways, whereas others struggle, right? Some other teams, they just happen to be fast everywhere they go, right off the truck.
And that's usually the Ganassis, the Penskes.
Exactly.
They have that ability to start closer to the window rather than finding it, which is the hard part. Yeah.
It's very difficult. And
there's
for
not
me,
enough time in the weekend, and you even have less practice now to get to that window. So this is the top level of the game, right? Like this is people don't mess around. You got to show up and be ready to go right out the gate.
Yep. So and for me as a rookie, being new to open dampers, we're talking about inerters and
Oh yeah.
a bunch of things I haven't had access to ever in my career. So I don't really know
Scientific
what,
terms. Yeah.
yeah, what does what, blow off valves going to damper A to F, trying
Yeah.
different things, and you're just like, they throw a bunch of things on the car, and sometimes there will be sessions if we're so lost where you start with the setup and there's literally five changes that go on the car during a stop to see if it's just remotely better, and you're like, it feels remotely better, but you don't know what exactly targeted what, when you have
Yeah.
that many changes.
You're changing
So
so many things. You're like changing packages entirely. Like you're going
it's
from,
like
hey,
throwing a Hail Mary, right?
exactly. Like a lot of times teams will say, hey, we're going to try our St. Pete baseline here at Detroit, right? For the street
Yeah,
course. Well, that didn't work. All right. So we're going to go try our other street course. We're going to try the Long Beach baseline setup. Like, or you're going to try,
yeah,
there's all kinds of different baseline setups that if you're really like, let's say if you struggled there last year, you're probably not going to show up with the same baseline setup that you did that ran the year before. So you got to try other things,
exactly.
you know?
And it's a part of the game, but it makes it especially hard for a rookie when it's your first year in this IndyCar, which is a new car for you. Just straight into a race weekend, and you go from driving, package A for 6 or 7 laps. You come back in,
Yeah.
you're getting reacquainted to a track. Then the team throws a completely different setup on. You go out there, car feels like a completely different race car because it is. And then you get another 6 or 7 laps and you have to adapt to that. So there's just so much adapting. Whereas, when you compare to junior formula, those amount of changes aren't happening. So you get the
Oh,
same race
much
car
smaller
most of the
window.
time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
maybe in junior formula, you're only getting the click or rebound, or you're dropping the rear a flat or so. And it's just much easier to build on the last run. Whereas in IndyCar, you'll do these big changes and you're like, wow, this feels completely different, but we're just going to go for it and see in 6 laps if it's a better race car than what we had before. So much more complicated. And, but yeah, it's a part of the game. It's the highest level, as you know, and
Oh yeah.
it's complicated. It definitely helps having a strong car right out of the truck, and
Life is way
if
easier.
if yeah,
Yeah.
if every weekend for us was like the Indy 500, it would have been a completely different year. So, and for some teams and drivers, that's the reality for
Yeah.
them with how far ahead they are. So, um, no, learned a bunch this year. The longest races I've ever done. That was a big adaptation,
Yeah.
strategy, pit stops, fuel saving,
Physicality. Yeah.
physicality. But yeah,
Looking towards the future now, though, you have to be. I mean, I am excited for you because there's a Penske relationship, right? Like it's a
right.
public announcement. There's a Foyt relationship now with Penske, which is they won the 500. They've won everything in the world. They win all the time. So that have you seen already yet some of that Penske influence in the building or in the way things
Yeah.
are looking, shaping up for testing over the winter? Has that been a pretty impressive influence already on you, or is it going to be more like when you get to the race weekends?
Yeah, I mean, um, obviously the announcement came out kind of middle 3/4 of the year last year, so it was just beginning. I can definitely say there's been a lot of teamwork during the preseason here, especially with all the hybrid stuff going on, testing. I know they've been talking a lot about, what we did at the Indy 500, what they did, how can we become better as a team. I know a lot of our guys were with them at the speedway the other day during some hybrid testing, and it's really exciting. My contract with Foyt is a couple of years when I signed it, so that's, we knew something like this was in the works, and it's a reality now, and it's not just an average, partnership. It's a true technical partnership, and something that's very, very special to be a part of. To be associated with a team like Team Penske is
Yeah, it's
very
huge.
special. It's huge, and for a small team like ourselves, it's very important. So it'll be hopefully very, very helpful for hybrid information, as they're one of the test teams for Chevrolet. And the reality for us is we haven't had any days yet of
Yeah,
hybrid testing, but I think Will Power and Scotty Mack's been out there pounding laps as one of the test teams. So hopefully we can get a lot of info from them on what you can do from a driving perspective and balance, and how to use the thing properly. so we can get caught up to speed really quickly.
Yeah, I mean that takes everything to a whole new level. So that'll be really cool. I think I certainly hope that I mean I don't know what is going to happen yet in my future, but I know that I would love to be if I have to only do the Indy 500, I think there'd only be one place I'd like to be, and that's the third car at a Foyt Penske team. So
Love to have you as a
we'll
teammate.
see.